Hey everybody, welcome back to the Passive Buddies podcast. And today, as usual, I have my co-host Brandon Duff with us, who's going to talk, and we're both going to talk about how to use your failures to make more money. Now, obviously, this episode, Brandon, I think especially because of how recent that crypto dive was, and obviously like some of the courses that I've launched in the past that I just haven't fucking done anything. It's quite interesting, like how you make more money from failures and how you bounce back from those failures, aren't you? So
Yeah,
actually,
definitely.
if you didn't catch the episode where we were talking about crypto and what had literally just, I think it was the future of crypto, the episode, go back and have a listen because our poor friend Brandon Duff had literally just lost $40,000 in the crypto market. And if you watch the video version, he was still smiling. And I don't know how, but fair play to him. So, like, obviously, I'm gonna go with the feeling first. What were you feeling at that point? Like when you woke up that morning and seen that, like, the stable coin had been unpegged, you'd lost 40K, and it was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, it did like totally suck. But for me, like, I'm not really emotionally attached to money like a lot of people are, and which is totally like fine. Like a lot of people find that as a way to kind of cope in a way. But for me, I think it's like I kind of treat money like a hammer. I'm not emotionally attached to a hammer, so I'm not going to be emotionally attached to like money because money just allows you to do things faster and it allows you to get shit done. And in the upcoming episode, we will be talking about how to really start a 4 hour work week. So you definitely want to tune in for that. So make sure you subscribe. But as far as what I was feeling, I mean, yeah, like, I mean, there was really nothing I could do about it because my actual money or the crypto was locked inside a staking contract, and that staking contract had a time lock of 28 days. So there wasn't anything I could do or change what I could do. And I understood that that pretty much I couldn't change anything. Like it was out of my control. So there wasn't really anything to cry over spilt milk in a sense because there was nothing I could do. So it's no like I can't control things outside of my control. So I just watched it go down the hill and take that as a learning lesson, not to um, invest in arithmetic. I can't say that word. Whatever, stable coins. So it was just a lesson learned also not to hold your crypto in contracts that have a unstaking period. So in doing so, it's a good lesson for myself. And I can use that as like a story of why you should not do this or why you should do this way and teach people from my mistakes. I mean, we read books all the time, and those books have a vast amount of information on what not to do in things and what worked. And so I can write a book or I can do all these different things on how to kind of direct people on learning from my mistakes and teach them how to actually do it the right way, or even maybe not lose 40,000 or 50,000. And in the grand scheme of things, there are people that lost millions more than me. And in like, I only lost, I mean, sure, it's all relative. Like 40K to someone who has no money is a lot, but 40K to someone who has a billion is very little. So in the grand scheme of things, like it is what it is. And I'm here to live another day.
Don't you like, and the way, like, obviously that panned out, that story, obviously losing it to like then basically creating books and creating like courses and like teaching people. Isn't it crazy how you literally can monetize a failure?
Oh
Like
yeah, totally.
like good or bad, you can monetize your experience, and I think that's so great. Like even to the point you're like, if you went, I know you've got a YouTube channel anyway, but like if you were starting out in the crypto market and you just do crypto and you had these issues, you could literally document everything that you're doing in your journey and go and create money from the good, the bad, and the failures, or the lessons rather than failures. So I think that's really, really important. The fact that, like, yeah, it might suck at the time, like it might feel a bit crap, but at the end of the day, like, you can still monetize off your failures. You can still make money from like from what happened. Like, even if you're teaching people like what mistakes you made, and you can recommend or unrecommend, or like throw out the whole this is not financial advice, but like that failure, obviously you're now probably inside your inner circle, like teaching people about the mistakes you made, and well, this is what I've done, and this is why it didn't work. And people are paying you to be inside your inner circle membership. So like straight away you've took that experience and you're giving it to the people who are paying you, which I think is absolutely incredible.
Well, I mean, right off the bat, one of our trainings I put in there, like one of them was like having these more top 100 coins, or even top, blue chip projects. And one of them in there was Luna. And like that day I went in there and said, like, added a addendum, I guess, that said like, hey, not everything is stable and not everything is safe. So like always do your own research, because this happened to me. And just like you were saying, I do have a YouTube channel, and from like the start of it, it was about documenting my journey in crypto. And just like you are, like we're saying, is you can literally make money from your mistakes, because if you're documenting this journey through your life on blogging or video or journaling or whatever that is, you can always look back and see the mistakes you've made, the ways you actually profited, and then take those and combine them into like a documentary, or we're saying a book. So it is really cool what you can do with technology today. And we'll go over later in the episode how AI is allowing people to make money. But what are your thoughts on some of the failures you've had that you've been able to monetize?
So like some of the failures, obviously mine, like I always refer back to the first course I ever launched. And like when you look back at ETS, which was supposed to be my millionaire breakthrough, it was going to change my life forever. And it changed my life, but not forever. It definitely gave me some lessons. But these are the lessons now that I've took. It's like, obviously I had no audience, I had no traffic, I had like a really poor funnel. Like the copy was dreadful. Like, oh my God, like if I could pull up that funnel and show you now, I think we'd at least laugh for the rest of the episode. It was god awful. It was just shocking. And I was running Facebook ads to it. It wasn't converting. I was running like ads to a one-page business plan, which was the opt-in page. And it's just nobody was like, everyone was clicking, but the minute they got on it, they must have laughed and went, who the fuck is this joker? In the nicest possible way.
Right.
But as you say, like it taught me, it was like, obviously, well, if it's unproven, I really shouldn't be throwing ads at it, because obviously you just like, what have you got, more time or more money? And at the time it was definitely I have more time than money. So throwing ads at it just to test, like obviously wasn't a good thing. The offer wasn't good enough and the market fed that back to me. And it was a nice stark reality, because I remember sitting there going, I was like, it took me like a week to build this awful funnel. Like, and it took me a week to build it. And I was like, right, on the Friday, I was like, babe, I was like, it's about to go live. I'm about to run the ads too. I'm like, so excited. Like, we're just going to start seeing, like, I think it was like £50 per month, the subscription was, or whatever, to come and listen to a guy who didn't have a bloody clue in stark reality. Obviously, I was a couple of steps ahead of some people, but compared to what obviously I'd be teaching at that time, they should have got more. Thankfully, and I mean, thankfully, no one bought. Because don't get me wrong, if people had bought, I would have seen it as a success. I was like, yeah, I was like, people went through that, and this is how I've done it. But now I can go, well, this is how you don't do it. Like, you don't launch to an audience. You try and build an audience first. You try and get some beta users in, and like, I now take all those lessons that I learned, and obviously in part of the marketing section in Passive Buddies Accelerator is like, well, yeah, like, this is how to do it wrong. This is what I done wrong. This is the steps that I skipped, and all of those things. People are now like, oh yes, because obviously we all know everyone's journey, like before they get a mentor, is so zigzagged, isn't it? It's like, it's a slow zigzag up the ladder, very, very slow. Whereas if you can get someone go, no, don't go left, go right, go straight ahead, and that's where you find it, you're always going to get there quicker. So taking those failures and now going, hey guys, no, just avoid launching that just now, because that's a shocking offer.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you actually at the beginning of this episode, we talked about how money allows you to do things faster, and you kind of learned how to that offer wasn't good enough for the market because you paid for all the traffic to do that versus having to organically do it, which probably could have took longer and spent more time than money at that point. And you're able to really figure out what didn't work. And that was your offer. And now you have this amazing offer in the affiliate space. And I mean, you have some amazing offers in general. So now you've learned from that. And that was because you spent money to do things much more quickly.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I could have spent like, obviously, because I didn't know about organic marketing at that point. I didn't really know how to sell with free traffic strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So it was literally just, you see it, don't you? Like, well, people are running ads, so I'll run an ad. I'll create a landing page,
Right.
and that was it. And yeah, the speed it took to learn, that was a dead offer. 100%. I can't buy that time back. So I am grateful for that. Just at that point, it was a stark reality to, this online game is not going to be as easy as it's pictured, and it's definitely not. And it's understanding like the sex appeal of the YouTube ad compared to the hard work that's behind it is a nice stark reality.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many failures. I mean, if we look at, luckily, I mean, we talked about I wouldn't call it a failure, but we talked about earlier in an earlier episode about how I was invested in real estate and how a tenant of ours that was going to move in was telling us how their mom was like in the hospital and blah, 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 blah. Luckily, I had some good intuition, but that could have been a huge failure where someone could have been just, what do we call it? Just sitting in our rental property as a freeloader in a way, not paying rent. And they could have taken over our rental property and we wouldn't been able to get them out. Luckily, I read of other people's failures where they had squatters in their property, and it kind of put that into my mind where I didn't have that failure because I've read books of other people who have had that similar issue go through. So I mean, learning and reading and just learning from other people's failures is going to help you also. And I think this is why having mentorships and masterminds are so important, is because you learn from other people's failures and you're able to kind of put two and two together and overcome a lot of these possible failures that could have come up in your life.
I think that's obviously like something to really look at, isn't it? Like other people's failures as well as your own. Like when you learn to walk, like how do you learn to walk? You learn to walk by falling down.
Right.
And like it's that fall that you go, well, actually, even as a baby, you realize you were slightly off center, so you try and walk more center, or you ran too fast. And even at that age, you're learning from your failures. Like
Right.
no failure is like, unless you die, like no failure is like catastrophic, like to a point as you can't recover, you can't learn, and you can't, well, monetize from that experience. Like we're like, your biggest lessons are always in like the games you don't win, the events that you lose, like the situations where you don't make the goal. They are where your biggest lessons come from, and they are where a lot of people will want to know, like to the point of, and I'm not saying obviously like go on Facebook and just blast every failure that you've ever had. Like you've got to do it in a strategic way, but like you can still make money off those failures. By people want to know how you did what you did that failed in order to make them not do it.
Right. I mean, if a great example of a failure would be kind of like the Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, he was a criminal in a sense, where he took people's money, kind of was doing a Ponzi scheme or manipulating the stock market, went to jail, and then came out with a book and a movie and was made public about like this huge failure or this huge corrupt thing and monetized it. I mean, it's in the grand scheme of things, I mean, there, like you said, like there isn't things you can come back from. And I mean, I'm guessing he's kind of wealthy now because someone told his story and he monetized it. So I think that's a very interesting point that he said, is like all mistakes you can come back from, obviously, unless you die. And I mean, I would say that would be even one of the bigger mistakes that people can make, or doing something that lands them in jail.
And I absolutely love that, because it was like, as you say, like, because he's so popular as well, isn't he? Like, he is, and this is the power of like the media, and this is the power of social media, and like, even if you are a total dick at one point, like,
Right.
you can still turn it around and still become a millionaire, like, still absolutely like crush it. Now, I'm sure the Wolf had some money stashed away for when he came back out, but
Right.
like, he's absolutely, he's completely changed it around. Like, he's now loved, even though he was like, obviously he was a crook. Like, he's loved by a huge audience. He's gone and found his new niche. He's gone and obviously sold to those people, taught them how to sell, and then obviously
Right.
got his podcast and monetized so many different platforms, all from his mistakes.
Right. So, I mean, if you do have mistakes, don't let that stop you. Like, get up, do it again, try harder, try a different route, and then keep documenting. I mean, I think that's one of the things a lot of people do is, or don't do, is document what went right and what went wrong. Because if you can keep documenting things that did go right, you can see the patterns in that, and then actually act on those certain lever points and actually do really, really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, as you say, like, that documentation and going, right, okay, well, this didn't work, this did work, and sitting down to identify that is obviously, it sometimes it might be an outsider looking in and go, actually, it was this, and you go, yeah, okay. Or sometimes you go, well, people didn't get past the headline, so that didn't work. People didn't buy this offer, so like, I always revert most things to football, because that was my background. Like, I remember missing a penalty, like, spot kick, like, me versus the person, and we didn't. I missed. We didn't go through, and obviously we got knocked out of the tournament. That didn't stop me a couple of years later coming back up, standing with that ball, taking that penalty, scoring, and knocking the best team in the area out. Like,
That's awesome.
it can still be done, and like, and I only really remember that story because it came up on my memories the other day, which was quite nice. But like, it can still be done. Don't like let one failure hold you back, because you never know. Like, you still have that ability, like, to go and push past that. You still have the ability to go and monetize. You still have the ability to make money, just because you haven't right now.
Right. And I mean, that's how we learn. I mean, through failure. It's our best mentor that we can have is failure, because we learn what not to do. And in learning not what to do, we can kind of cross those things off the box. Like, what is the quote? Like, can't think of his name, who created a light bulb. It took him like 100,000 times or 1,000 times to create the light bulb. And it was only one time that they actually did it, and now we have the light bulb. Thomas Jefferson, no, Thomas Edison.
Yeah,
Thank you. And
Jefferson was a president, wasn't he?
Yeah. And so, it takes, but a lot of times, and it's just it's taking things that we thought could work, and now checking them off and saying, okay, that didn't work. What's next? And if you can keep getting put down and then standing back up, you'll do really well for yourself, because that's the journey. I mean, you're going to lose a lot more times than you're going to win, but those wins are going to outlast any kind of failure that you do.
And you know what? Like, if you feel like, as a bit of a closer, like, if you feel, or closing statement, if you feel like you haven't got it in you to get back up, like, just remember, like, you've been doing this your whole life. Like, when you fell down as a baby, you got back up. When you couldn't tell your parents like what you wanted because you couldn't speak yet, like, you still carried on talking until you got it. Like, when you went to school and couldn't write your name, like, that was a failure, but you still picked up that pen and you tried again. Like, you have been doing this your whole life. Don't think just because you're an adult now that stops. Like, you're susceptible, like, not susceptible, but you're free from failure. This is going to live with you for the rest of your life, no matter what. But it's also something you've been combating and learning to beat your whole life. So don't let it stop you. Just keep going.
Love it. That's a great closing statement.
Okay, in that case, guys, if you enjoyed the episode, thank you so much for hanging around till the end. Greatly appreciate it, and we will see you on the next episode.
Peace.